Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Beyond Ideas podcast. My name is Jorge Suria and I am the creator of this little project where we talk about many different topics, but all of them with a little background of presence, stillness, spirituality, and you name it. Today we are gonna talk about sadness, something we all experience in life, and I will aim this episode to for sadness for men because I'm also a man, and I believe it's I have some things to say to men specifically. However, I do believe that anyone could benefit from sadness is general. Everyone feels it independently of gender, but I will sort of like frame it for men in a way. So yeah, welcome to stay. And if you like the episode, you are welcome to support by subscribing, giving a like, sharing, commenting. You know the drill, the internet thing. It's super, super supportive. So yeah, let me know. Let me know if your thoughts, if you have some. And I hope that you enjoy. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Okay, so today I woke up a bit sad in the morning. I woke up with a bit of a trigger that I woke earlier than usual, and I had a little bit of a trigger, and then it brought a lot of sadness in me. So I've been feeling sad. Unfortunately, now in this very moment, I don't feel it super, super present throughout the day. It has been going away. Maybe it comes back at some point. But yeah, but with that, I felt inspired to talk about sadness because I don't think I've talked about it yet. And also because I think it's a bit of a taboo for men. Not all men, of course. There's many millions of men in this world and everyone is unique. But I think that there is a common there is a lot of men that can feel identified with this story in a way. In a way, I can, of course, speak about my experience as a man, but I think that this can generalize. So I'm gonna generalize and I'm gonna say that there can be a stereotype with these modern men or these white West men, men who has been brought up I don't think it needs to be white men. It can be any man, but many men have been grown up with similar things, similar values, similar culture, even with different parts of the world, different countries, but there's some similarities. I think about, the typical man who also likes sport, maybe. That would be the stereotype. It not necessarily only apply to men who like sports, but men who grew up with this sort of like concept and energy that there has been in men for many generations, which is sort of like maybe like this tough man of not just alpha man or whatever, but like this kind of tough man of the typical thing of like don't cry or not knowing how to feel emotions, not knowing how to deal with emotions, being seen as weak if a man if you were feeling emotion, sadness, especially around sadness, and finding difficulty to express sadness. So, so yeah, I'm pretty sure that many men can connect with this. I personally had this struggle for my life. I struggle a lot with sadness, not a lot, right? Like I don't think I have been mostly sad in my life, but of course I had periods of like intense sadness and different sorts of sadness, different sort of levels. It's normal. We all probably have it in different ways. And for me, the difficult part was learning how to deal with it. For many, many years, I was like very, very separated from my emotions, very blocked. I couldn't really feel it. I knew I had sadness, but I didn't know how to express it. I couldn't cry. It was really difficult, So maybe you identify with this already. And I think that many men, we grew up with this sort of experience. I personally didn't have a family who told me, don't cry, or I don't remember at least, or don't feel the emotions. But something that I feel for certain in a way is that I personally put that on myself. I thought since I was little that crying was not something you would do. I barely ever saw my father cry. And yeah, I don't know your case or your situation, but yeah, I think that many men, I think of many friends that are in this same boat in a way, from culture or whatever it is, and all different kind of men. So yeah, so today I really want to speak about this, and I hope to give you some steps I wrote down before when I was preparing the episode, like 6 steps or 6.5 steps on how to deal with sadness in a way, and I hope that it helps you. It's like not ways or like, the red pill or whatever, like easy fix, but like a journey on how to deal with sadness for men, that I think it could be helpful, perhaps, I hope. And otherwise, you can always do whatever you want. So yeah, I hope that you enjoy, and let's see what comes out of this. And again, I also want to share that I'm right now, like, even if I'm not feeling like that deep sadness that I was feeling this morning, I still feel like my energy is not like on top level. So yeah, it's also okay. It's also okay, and I like to acknowledge that I might not feel so energetic, and I see the inner voice inside of me judging myself for it. But we talk about this quite often in this podcast, and it's a beautiful journey. And just so you know, I'm also real. I'm also human. I also feel. I also have these things. I don't try to show perfectionism on my perfect side. I also feel stuff. So let's see what comes out. So something that I noticed, and I think it applies to many men, it is that, yeah, there is something difficult or something challenging in some people and some men, probably women as well, but I'm talking to men, which is recognizing sadness. Sometimes, some friends, some men that I know, I just never heard them say, I'm sad. And that is very strange, because if you are a human, you have experienced sadness. But, and I had this in my life too. I had a hard time saying, I'm sad, because I just didn't know how to manage that at that point of my life. And I see this in many men, that you see them that they're really sad, and they just, you ask them, hey, how are you, or do you need support or something, like, they, no, 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 I'm okay, I'm okay. And so yeah, this is stereotype that applies to these generations and older generations especially, right? Think about parents, think about grandparents. Most of those men super disconnected from those emotions, and I'm sure like our generation and any generation of men, many men are truly disconnected from their emotions, and I have been one of them. And I'm not like super healed, and I am super connected to everything, and I still struggle with sadness when it comes and to express it and everything like that. But I've been, doing this journey of self-discovery, and you get to learn a lot. And so I think it's quite important to recognize when sadness comes in your life. So yeah, for background a little bit, and with this generalization, I sense that for many men, it's complicated to admit when they're sad. It's also complicated to, it's complicated to express it. It's complicated to feel it. It's complicated to just deal with sadness in general. When other people see it, when you're alone, when you have to share, when you have to go to work, like whatever it is, there's sometimes that yeah, it's quite difficult. And also a very common thing when a man doesn't know how to deal with sadness is that we may have a tendency to suppress the emotion, right? To suppress the sadness, because we don't really know how to deal with it, how to, let it be, or like why it's happening. And there's so many issues, I would say, with sadness. And then the consequence of like not knowing how to deal with sadness is that many men just go into coping mechanisms, just go into vices, into bad habits, into just whatever distractions, so that you don't need to feel the sadness. And that is probably not the smartest way, because I don't think suppressing anything in life, or holding on, or not really allowing the emotion to go in your body or to release, it's healthy. I think like the healthy way is to just like, yeah, just let sadness do its thing, because life is super wise, and sadness is just a normal thing, even if it was demonized. In my experience, something I realized a lot, or I recognized a lot, was that for me, I learned that it was not very cool to be sad or to express sadness. It was a sign of weakness, especially when I was with friends or when I was in school. Like I said, being sad at home, I really didn't know how to do it. But I don't think my parents were telling me like don't be sad or don't cry so much, which I think many men have experienced that from their parents. But I realized that there's a lot of peer pressure in a way at school. If you're playing a sport, if you're in a team, showing sadness, at least in my life, in my experience, it was not really a good thing, right? So since I was little, and many people probably since they were little, you learn how to put a blockage into it, or you learn how to deal with it in your own way, which is mostly suppressing. Again, and you can live your whole life with these like emotions totally suppressed in your body. And do you want to live that life? Maybe you do. Maybe you're not even conscious of it. But I truly recommend you to not live that life of just suppressing emotions, suppressing sadness, whatever it comes, not knowing how to deal with it. And then when sadness comes, you need to hide because people cannot see you in that. You don't want to be seen. And that I have for sure. And that's okay. I don't want to like demonize anyone or anything. I think that we're all beautiful people, that we're in our own process, in our own journey. And wherever you are in your journey, it's very, very beautiful. But maybe if you're watching this video, maybe you're interested in like how to deal with sadness. And again, I'm not gonna like clickbait you or something. I'm gonna tell you the ways I believe it's wise to deal with the sadness and things that I also do for myself. So so step number 1, and I think this is so important, it's to own the emotion, to own your experience. Start expressing when you are sad, and maybe you are not able to do it to your friends or to your family or to your partner or whoever, because it feels very frightening, and you're still, you are in the beginning, you are interested to open up a little bit, to start to feel these things and not just suppress them. So you can say this to yourself, like I just said in the video, and I say this to myself, just own it when it happens. It's like, dude, I'm sad today, and it's okay. And you also don't need to have a speaker on post to everyone on Instagram, hey, I'm sad, or like I'm doing in this video, telling to everyone as an example. That is not, you can do whatever, but you don't have to do that. But for sure, it's just like start owning it, I was saying this example that sometimes you ask a man who may be looking like super sad and super devastated, how are you? How are you feeling? And then that man says, yeah, I'm okay. Or whatever it is, I'm all right, I'll be better. Yeah, I'm not the best, but whatever. When they have a hard time saying, hey, I'm sad, and I'm okay being sad. There's no problem with that. So yeah, one of the first steps is to really embrace the emotion when it comes. And that's one of the first steps to actually opening your heart to that. You're not saying anymore, I don't want to feel sad, so I'm going to repress it. I'm going to put it on a box and hide it somewhere in the room. I'm going to act as if I'm not sad, Just say, I'm sad, and it's no problem. And that's own it, right? And that's one of the first step of like starting to open, starting to soften that armor, soften that barrier that you may have, that disconnection towards the emotion. When sadness comes, when you have a period of your life that you're not doing well, maybe you're not doing well for months or for years, it doesn't matter if it's just for today. Just own it. Hey, yeah, I'm sad, and that's okay. And that's one part of it. So yeah, the second step is to start to understand the emotion. And one way you understand the emotion is by recognizing what is happening in your body. This is so important because emotions, we may think or we may try to rationalize emotions. Emotions are a body sensation. Like that's step number 1, feel your body. And that's a way of like becoming present as well, connecting with presence, connecting with stillness. But again, you don't need to go to the Himalayas and meditate for 20 years, like I say often, to recognize, to learn how to feel your body, but it's just like when you're sad, if you're sad right now, it's just like lie down and see what's happening in your body. Like, do you feel it in the chest? Do you feel it in the knees? Do you feel it in your belly? Like, do you feel tingly? Do you feel tense? Do you feel low? Do you feel like warmth? Like, what is it? What is it? Don't put a story into it. You know, you don't need to go into the story of like why you feel sad, which is something I believe most people do. And I also do it myself, understanding, oh my God, why am I sad? Like, oh, this person did this to me, or this happened at work, or heartbroken, or grieving because you lost something in your life or someone. You know, that's wonderful and that's normal. There's nothing bad to have a story. But first of all, you know, you own your emotion and then understand that the emotion, it's a body sensation. And let me tell you one thing. I had a teacher once that he said, truly, emotions last about 5 to 7 seconds and then they go. And I didn't resonate with that at that time, but I learned what he trying to mean. And it is true, I believe, that if you are really open, you know, and you're really open to life and all the experiences and everything, sometimes sadness is a bit like that, you know, it just comes in, you feel it, feels so good, probably not, maybe feels painful, you know, there's some release, there's something, and then the emotion goes away, and then life goes on. But if you have like this blockage that I was talking about that many men have, and so when the emotion comes, it just hits a block, and then you panic and you want to hide the emotion, you want to suppress it, or you don't know how to deal with it. And then that's what happens. You shut down, you're numb, you cannot feel anything in your body when you're sad, and that's just a sign. And then the sadness still's there, you know, it's really hard for sadness to find a way to leave your body if your body is totally tense, totally numb, and that's okay as well. I don't want to demonize that either, because I was there for many years, you know, unable to cry, unable to feel sadness, and knowing I had a lot of sadness, but I just wasn't able to really feel it. And I was just suppressing it for many years. So if you're on that boat, it's okay. But one of the steps is this: just understand that sadness is a body thing and it does its thing, you know, so you don't need to have a story. And speaking about the story, I think this is important because most times we associate sadness with something that is happening in your life. You may be going through a rough patch, something happened at work, there is a situation with your partner, with your family, you have no money, whatever it is, and that brings you sadness, or you are one of the common sadness I had a lot in my life was like not knowing my mission or not knowing my purpose or not knowing what to do with my life, and that brought a lot of sadness. So what I want to say here is that there is a story behind sadness. One beautiful thing to know and to do is to recognize that there is a story, whatever story you may have around this sadness, and the story is, it's not the whole thing. You know, I was telling you before, the sadness should be in the body. The story may generate the sadness. Your life situation may provoke the sadness, but the sadness and the story are not truly fully connected. You know, the sadness is just a body thing. It's just an emotion. The sadness, if you didn't have this story, like let's say you're super sad right now, and you said, okay, I forget about the story, would the sadness still be in your body? Probably yes. But then when you think, let's say you now have a memory of something that happened in your life that makes you super sad. So that's the story bringing you the sadness. But the sadness in itself is a body sensation. So just understand that. And with understanding that, maybe there's still a bit more openness to invite that sadness. You know, understanding that it's not just a story. And especially if you're really obsessed about the story, really blaming someone for something they did to you or something that's going on in your life or politics or whatever it is. And again, there's no right or wrong way. I'm just telling you some tips and hoping that they help you. So yeah, I'm starting this journey and I screw up sometimes, but it's okay. Actually, step 3, I wrote, it's about the story. It's about realizing the story, and I already talked about it a little bit. And another thing is to understand that emotions don't last forever. You may be thinking, or you may be going through a difficult time, and you may think that you're going to be sad forever, maybe, or you're gonna be sad for a week or for a month, or you don't know when you're gonna be good again. And that's okay. Emotions, you can understand, or something that has helped me a lot in my life, and it was actually a tip that a friend gave me. I was going through a really rough period last year, heartbreak and so on, and I really thought that, oh my God, I'm sad every day. I was like crying every day. It was super difficult for me that period. And my friend gave me like a beautiful piece of knowledge, which is like, look, you are sad right now, but you don't know if you're going to be sad in the next hour. You don't know if you're going to be sad in 3 hours. That's impossible to know. And if you're sad in 3 hours, great. Then you don't know if you're going to be sad the next day or the next hours or whatever it is. So understanding that sadness comes from the present moment. And at that time, I thought, yeah, I'm going to be sad for forever. I don't know when I'm going to be good again. It's impossible to be better. And little by little, it changed. But it really helped me saying this. It's like, you are sad right now. I don't know if you're going to be sad in 2 hours. And that's another softness into the sadness, understanding the sadness, understanding the body. One thing about when you have a story of sadness, when you think something's going on in your human life, in your human experience, and you're creating that story, is that we may have, especially men, I believe, probably anyone, but especially men, we may try to rationalize sadness. And this is so common. Trying to understand why you are sad. And the consequence, or like the follow up to that, is like, you rationalize sadness and then you try to fix sadness. The man typical thing, fixing things, or typical characteristic. And here is already a red flag or an orange flag in a way, right? This is something to pay attention. Are you trying to rationalize when you're feeling sad? And if you are, that just brings you to the story. That just brings you to, maybe you got dumped, someone broke your heart or something, and you try to rationalize. Yeah, I'm feeling sad because I did that, or I could improve in this, or the other person wasn't good, or whatever it is. This is just an example of like you being in a story and trying to rationalize why you feel sad. And let me tell you, you may feel sad for many reasons. Your story may be very valid, but again, there's no need to rationalize. Just own it. It's like, yeah, I'm just sad. Sad because something happened in your life, or because you woke up sad. You don't even need that reason. So if you catch yourself trying to rationalize sadness, trying to fix sadness, there's nothing to fix. This is one of the beautiful things. This rationalizing, this trying to fix the sadness, it's blocking the emotion from actually releasing. So you want to fix sadness. The best way to fix sadness is to not fix sadness, because sadness doesn't need to be fixed. The only thing that sadness or any emotion needs is to be felt. And if you want to take whichever step, this is the step. This is where the juice is. This is the real thing on how to deal with sadness. It is to feel the sadness. And if you are, like I was in my life, totally disconnected, totally numb, you cannot feel the sadness, that's okay. Just try step 1, step 2, step 3, own your emotion, understand, feel it in your body, understand that it comes from the body, know the story that is behind the sadness, and then feel the emotion. How do you feel the emotion? Maybe you are in that fixer mode, you want to fix yourself, you don't want to be sad anymore. Well, something that I learned, something that I have experienced, is by just doing nothing. Just allowing. That's how you feel sadness. You go, lay down if you can, or if you're driving, or if you're whatever you are doing with this podcast, or whenever sadness comes to you, just feel it. And how do you feel it? Doing nothing. But not just doing nothing. It's doing nothing, and of course, not doing, which is not being in the story, not trying to rationalize, not try to feel like all these things. Like, you just lay down and observe the body. What is happening in the body? Go back to the body. think about the story, but just like see how it feels inside, how it feels. Give your time, yourself space to feel the emotion. When the sadness is not felt, is just stuck there in the body, and it's even worse because it lasts for such a long time. And you know, maybe it's difficult also to release. If I were to lay down and just meditate on this and just feel the emotion like locating in the body and all of that, probably I would have released a lot more than I did throughout the day, the emotion. And it's beautiful. And if you can cry, that's wonderful, fantastic. It's one of the most common ways of like dealing with the emotion, of feeling the emotion, but you don't need to cry. It's not mandatory, because I know that many people are blocked. Many men are blocked with crying. I was blocked with crying for years. I don't think I cried for so many years. It was incredible. I thought I was a robot. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, you're just working on yourself little by little, and it's already way more than you have done before. If you feel sad and you just like give yourself space to feel that, see how it feels in your body, and not try to fix it, not try to rationalize it, surrender to it. And when I was in this period of my life with a lot of sadness every day, at some point I was like, everyone says, feel it, feel it, feel it. And I sometimes felt it and sometimes not. And I was just tired of feeling it. And that's another thing. You don't need to be laying down all the time and see what happens in the body and just being stuck with it. Like my teacher said, it's like feeling the emotion can maybe last for 7 seconds. Maybe it's that fast for you. Maybe it takes more time, but you don't need to be all day feeling the emotion and being in the grief and being in the thing. It also helps to, you are sad, you acknowledge, and can also do things if you're sad. You can also go to work out. You can also go to work and all of that. And no need to suppress it, just own it. Say to people if you want to be quiet, if you don't want to share, and just see what happens, but not really put that blockage and try to hide the emotion and try to press it and use distraction or something like that. That's a way of not feeling the emotion. Maybe today I didn't need to lay down and feel the emotion like that in that way. Maybe I felt it enough that the emotion didn't need to be present there anymore. And in my case, it was because I had a story and I just became aware of the story. So I'm like, yeah, this emotion is coming from the story. So when I acknowledge the story, the emotion didn't become so present. And that's one way of dealing with sadness, I guess. So yeah, the important thing here is that by feeling the emotion, by feeling the sadness, you allow the sadness to release, to find its way out in your body. Sadness came into your body for whatever reason. And if you didn't do all those things that you maybe have done in the past of suppressing or whatever, and you actually feel the emotion, then the emotion finds its own way out of the system. It's just not meant to be there forever. And sometimes sadness is just not from the story. It's just not from what's happening in your life. Sometimes this sadness can also be a very old sadness, a very old pain and wound coming from childhood. Many times, if you are one of those men, like I am in a way, of suppressing sadness for so many years, most of the sadness that I've been feeling in these past few years has been very old sadness. Sadness from when I was 5, from when I was 8, from when I was, different times in my life that I felt sad and I didn't know why. And I just stored that emotion for so many years because I didn't want to feel it. And that's the issue. Like, if you don't want to feel sadness, that's a big, like alarm. You might, or a sign to you that you may want to do something different. And again, recognize that, yeah, like if you have stuck sadness, I had sadness stuck in me for so many years. In my 20s, it was incredible. I didn't know. I thought I was like truly something wrong with me for so many years, and I didn't get to depression, but I think very close to that. And after doing this coaching, this therapy, this kind of thing for this last year especially, and learning how to feel and releasing the emotion and all that, many of these emotions, I thought it was about being heartbroken or this story that I was living, but behind the story, behind the thing, my inner wisdom brought me images of when I was a little kid and I was having trouble with love from my father, from my mother, or like different experiences from them. So understand that, you know, sadness sometimes can be from something present, something that is happening in your life right now, or it can be a very old sadness. And anyways, the thing again is just to feel the sadness, and to feel it, you don't need to do anything. Just see what happens in your body. Don't put a story into it. Don't put a tag. And yeah, and I hope that that it helps you, and you can deal with it that way. And after you release the sadness, then you need to do the next part. If you got that luck that you actually open up that emotion and you actually felt it, and then had the release and the big release, or whatever you felt, whatever happened to you, then comes the next part, which is to actually hold yourself in it. Of course, when we were little, when we were babies, we cried, we felt sad, and there was Papa and Mama. Hopefully, you had that experience. You know, holding you, giving you warmth and care and love, so that you would be okay. And when you were older, when you grew up, maybe you had that, maybe not. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. But now you're an adult, right? So now you have the opportunity to hold yourself, and you may know how to do it. And I congratulate you for that, or you may not know how to hold yourself, which is something I personally, in 34 years, I learned how to hold myself when I became 34. You know, like so old, and you may be 50, and maybe you still don't know how to hold yourself. And I'm not perfect. I still screw up, and it's not that I learn in 1 year and now I learn how to hold every emotion. But yeah, sometimes I learn how to hold myself into sadness, because I had this beautiful year of learning all these things. So yeah, it's important, and I talk about this often in this podcast, which is part of learning how to hold yourself. It's becoming your own father, you know, becoming your own mother, giving yourself that love, that caress that you need. Because many times when there is sadness, and especially when there's sadness that is connected to a past wound, that's inner child stuff. Sometimes you are sad and crying like a little baby because you are actually in that energy, because that emotion comes from when you were a baby. That emotion comes from when you were a little kid, and that is fantastic. If you got to that point, if you can feel the sadness and connect to your inner child and do that, then you are releasing, you're healing an emotion that has been probably inside of you for so long. And then it comes the second part, which is like what I just said, is to learn how to hold yourself, learn how to hold your inner child, learn to also, you know, connect to that mature, that man, that adult man energy that you have. Maybe you have it super developed, or maybe you are just starting to develop it, or even if you're 50, it doesn't matter the age. So connect to that man energy, and hold yourself, and also take yourself out of bed if you're spending too much time in bed, or if you're using too much coping mechanisms, watching too much shows, playing too much games, smoking too much weed, like whatever it is that you're using to distract yourself. Also connect with that man energy, and that father energy inside of you, and be like, hey, yeah, you know, right, I'm not gonna suppress sadness. I'm actually feel sad. I own it, and I own it as a man, and I feel sad as a man, as an adult man. That's super beautiful. That's sort of the way I experienced sadness this morning. You know, it's like, hey, I'm sad, but I'm not sad from my inner child. I'm sad because something happened at work that it was disappointing for me, and yeah, and I talked to my work colleagues, and I'm like, yo, dude, yeah, I'm fucking disappointed. I'm sad, and I'm also okay, and I'm also okay. And it's also not, you know, if I needed help, or if you need help when you're sad, it's not weak, it's not bad. It's great to ask for help. That's one way of becoming vulnerable, to lowering down the guard, to putting down the armor, and starting to feel that sadness and reaching out for support. That's super wise and super strong as a man, to be able to reach for support when you're sad. And sometimes, and many times, that support also comes from within. You know, when you're not in your child, when you learn how to hold your inner child after you have felt the sadness, then that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I really recommend you that. Learn how to hold yourself after releasing the emotion. And lastly, the last step, I forgot the numbers and everything, like I said, the new journey, only 12 episodes. I'm learning this thing. Let's see. But I hope you enjoyed some entertainment about sadness. And the last step is about presence. My people, my friends, how beautiful is presence and how easy it is to access presence. Presence is just, take a breath, feel the air, release it, follow it in your body. And that is beautiful. That is life. And that is a way of actually closing the cycle. If you were able to do all these steps, to own the emotion, feel it, and all this, recognize the story, you got to release even the emotion, and then you got to hold yourself in the emotion, then just enjoy the beautiful thing of presence and being just in your breath, just feeling your heartbeat, looking at nature, looking at the plant, just being still and in stillness. Yeah, whether you believe in this or not, this is fantastic because, in a way, many times all this sadness and all these emotions comes from the ego, comes from the sense of self, comes from the human experience. And in presence, there is no thoughts, there is no mind, there is no ideas or thoughts or concepts. There's just presence. A breath doesn't have a name. A breath doesn't have a story. A breath is just a breath. Air in, air out. Simple as that. And yeah, I guess that's how I usually end the episodes, and maybe that's the way I want to end this one. Yeah, I hope that this was a shorter one, and I hope that it brought you some value. If it did bring you some value, if it got you some ideas, and you want to tell me a little bit of how you reacted to this, you want to leave a comment, you want to leave a like, a subscription, subscribe, and all this thing, it would be super supportive, especially to see someone actually watch this stuff. And if no one watches, it's also okay. Like, it's no problem. I had a good time. I'm super grateful that I sat down one more day after having a day of being more low, being more sad. But independently of that, learning how to hold myself and being like, okay, I'm gonna record, and whatever comes, and it's beautiful. So I celebrate myself. Thank you, life, for everything. Life is so beautiful. It's just a fantastic thing to live. Fantastic time to be alive anytime. Just so cool. And you can realize that by just taking a deep breath. Just like, you feel the air, you feel your body. And then if you're very luxurious, you can even take 2 deep breaths. In breathing, everything is fantastic. So yeah, again, thank you so much. You are an amazing person. Sadness is okay. We all feel it. I hope that, yeah, if you're having a rough time, I send you some love. I know when I was having a rough time for many months, it was very difficult. So yeah, I send you love your way, and I'm sure that life will guide you. Life is an amazing thing, and just surrender to life. Just allow that sadness if you're feeling it a lot. And yeah, and you will see the magic of it. So I wish you well, and thank you so much one more time.